I'm gonna scream. I'm going to scream after I have put my hand through my monitor and my foot through my PC. What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons. Is that the intro? What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers. Arm yourselves, typology stuff. And boy, am I in the mood for typology. The universe is begging me not to talk about race in America, probably because the moment I finish and publish and upload the video, our racial troubles here would end. But I would get shot in the head, and the universe needs me here, so at everyone else's expense, I am being prevented from pontificating about racial matters. So let's stay in the kiddie pool of typology, and lo and behold, the editing software cooperates. Doesn't corrupt anything. That's just perfect. Okay. Today we are doing what we did with the last INFP video, which is to say, talking mostly about FI, but with some ENFP specific stuff thrown in there. If FE and TE's jobs are to grapple directly with the chaos of the world, then TI and FI's job is to make sense of it all. Make sense of something that can't make sense. And TI and FI have different ways of doing that. FI coincidentally feels or tries to feel its way into order, into sense. Cunt. Okay, no, it's working. It's working. If if a person or if FI is the process of building a PC that doesn't work, then or if a person is the process of building a PC that doesn't fucking work, FI would be something like the spot you put a graphics card. Bitch. I'm going to scream. FI is not a process in and of itself. It's a spot things to believe in get put and are then evaluated by performance. And when you consider the fact FI and TE are linked, this makes sense. TE, externalized thinking, finds things to think about, brings it in, so in that way, maybe TE is an ingress? What's the opposite of an exhaust? Maybe it's even more like FE than we thought. Anyway, TE finds things that might be worth believing in. Those things get slotted into the FI spot, and then FI works with them to figure out if this is or is not something worth believing in. I don't think is this correct is the question FI is grappling with. The question FI is grappling with is, does this, whatever this is, create or contextualize my life in a way that produces the results I want? I.e., getting the things I need, getting the things I want, helping me feel the ways I want to feel. I think that's one of the reasons FI types can seem so schizophrenic to TI types. We annoy FI types because we blend in. Or rather, we will suppress our beliefs to fit in with others for as long as we can or are willing to tolerate it. An FI type is going to have a much harder time with that. On the flip side, TI types are uncomfortable with FI types because FI types change their beliefs so frequently. Not to blend in, but wholesale. I believed X yesterday, I believe Y today. That's unnerving to TI types because how do you do that? How are you able or willing to swap out your internals so rapidly. A TI type is going to spend a lot of their time proofing their internal math. So the way a TI type abstracts the world, they're going to be focusing on correctness. Because if something is incorrect, then their context is fucked up, their ego can't exist, and they dissolve. They zero sum, like the Dwemer. Whereas with an FI type's internals, they aren't really concerned with correctness or the math lining up. They're concerned with, does this thing that I have brought in to believe in produce the results I want or not? For instance, science dogma FI types. They don't care about science. They want the security of believing in something. They want to feel like they are interested in or working on something meaningful. My world makes sense and I am a valuable part of it. I'm an active participant. And they can produce useful stuff, they do, but that's the producing useful stuff is not really why they're doing it. What did Teddy K call them? Auxiliary activities? Secondary activities, something like that? If it weren't science, it would be religion. Today's astrophysicist was yesterday's theologian. And there are still plenty of those. My world makes sense, and I am a participant. That's what they're looking for. So with FI, it doesn't, or the reason an FI type can swap out their beliefs so quickly and without any issues is their goal is not to find the thing that is the most correct. It is the thing that places their life where they want it. And to clarify before anyone jumps on me, TI is concerned with correctness, but whether or not a TI feels correct, thinks they're correct about what they believe, has no bearing on whether or not it is actually correct. It's a matter of concern. Let's imagine an FI type and a TI type both adopt ideologian A at the exact same time. What are their first steps? TI type says, how does this work? Yes, that makes sense. C's and B's are designed to be T'd. That lines up with everything I've thought up to this point. This contributes to what I was already thinking. Good. FI type says, wow, cock and ball torture is exhilarating. Everything we do is some spin on self-soothing. TI type, using TI, self-soothes by trying to make everything line up according to their understanding. FI type self-soothes by trying to find the most palatable or defensible ideology to serve as a fort for them so they can go inside and feel safe and comfortable. Two spins on the same trying to make sense, trying to feel okay process. When approaching a new way of looking at the world, the TI type asks, does this line up with what I know? The FI type asks, does this do what I need it to do, or think it should do? And I reiterate, correctness does not matter here. The TI type might select something to believe in based on it's lining up with everything they have learned up to this point and still be wrong. FI type finds a belief system that makes them feel moral and secure, and they will still or could still be horribly immoral and insecure. But once again, truth, insofar as anyone can find objective truth, does not matter to either of these types, to anybody. All that matters is how you feel. If the TI type feels correct, then that's what they're going to stick with. If this belief system does what the FI type needs it to do, then that's what they're going to stick with. Until you are contending directly with the bottom line army, none of this matters. This is all internal. Moving to ENFPs and their relationship with belief with FI. ENFPs change belief systems like they change clothes. And INFJs are a bit like this too, actually. Except their jumping around is a bit different. It's like with them, they are trying to put together the grand equation, but when you're dealing with an INFJ who keeps jumping around and hasn't solidified, it's like they start an equation, get frustrated, erase it, and then start something different. I think that's also where the tenderness comes from. It's precisely the not or needing to feel correct, but knowing you aren't because you keep jumping around thing. I think that's where that tenderness comes from. Whereas with ENFPs and FI, it's like changing parts on a car, trying to improve whatever. You're a white vlogging monk on Monday, and you're a militant race warrior on Tuesday. You're experimenting with different soul components. Now, I don't think you're aware that's what you're doing, but that's what you're doing. You are build crafting with your identity. And actually, it makes sense that INFJs and ENFPs appear similar in this. They're shadow types. But with INFJs, it seems like when they are in their jumping around phase, they're trying to figure out what what's the most correct, or what sort of person is the most correct. And then that evolves into what components of what sorts of people are the most correct, and then what can we build to be the most correct. Whereas with ENFPs and FI types generally, but ENFPs, this behavior comes out the strongest. What thing or things make me feel the way I want to feel, the way I need to feel to operate the way I need to operate or want to operate? What they believe in doesn't matter as long as it produces the desired results. Meaning, when they throw themselves totally into some fucking belief system, and this is their entire identity now, and after about a week they realize this isn't doing it for them, they'll jump ship to try the next thing. And with ENFPs specifically, I think they do settle down. That's going to be their long-term goal. Settling into the thing that suits them perfectly. Because it's not like one specific ideology will work perfectly for everybody, although they seem to want to think that way. At some point they realize that's not the case, but what works for them does work for them, and they remain loyal to that. And similarly to INTPs and ENTPs relationships, I think INFPs go through the exact same process but in a different way. Because an INFP will sure as shit jump between one religion and then one other thing and then back to something else the exact same way an ENFP will. But an INFP, I think, to be fair, I haven't studied older INFPs enough to know, it seems like they find something to stick with, and then the remainder of their lives is trying to figure out how to make the goddamn thing work. The way they think it can. So in the life game, where an ENFP is like an erratic sniper, spending most of their lives trying to line up the perfect target, an INFP is like a pissed off farmer. I did the research, I bought the land, I'm committed, I'm not going anywhere, but please just grow something out of you, you shitty soil that's supposed to be fertile, and I believe is fertile, but isn't, I guess. When you're dealing with FI types, be aware what their beliefs do for them. They aren't necessarily trying to be, quotes, correct, unless their needs dictate that they need to feel like they're correct, which is where you get these sciencey FI types from. It's more like their beliefs are their engine, their little generator for fending off madness, keeping themselves reality anchored. And if you're a TI type, they don't work the way you do. That's the other important thing to keep in mind. When an FI type adopts a belief, they are working that clay totally differently than you would. If you're a TI type, you're using beliefs to perform fucked up cartography. Doesn't matter if the map is actually correct, as long as you feel things are lined up, then you aren't losing your mind. In the same way, an FI type is not concerned about feeling correct the way you are, they just need to feel whatever it is they need to feel. And most often that's going to be, there is a place for me in the world and I'm in it. Even if that place is there isn't a place. You're in the place of no place. I'm hoping this all makes sense. For an FI type, what the belief is going in doesn't matter. What matters is the production or lack of production that comes after. Whereas with a TI type, the belief matters a whole lot going in because it needs to line up, but then it doesn't matter once it's lined up. Because production isn't a TI type's goal, getting everything to line up is. But everyone's goal is to feel like everything makes sense and please God let me be safe. Maybe not even on a mortal level, which is horrifying. What does it mean when your mental safety or the safety of your mind and your beliefs connection is more important than your being alive? There's probably something spooky in there. It's okay to die if you're sane and things make sense, but it's the worst sin imaginable to die mad. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.